do it by spin, okay? The better way, and what the best wedge players in the world do, is they do it by spin, not trajectory. When the ball gets too high up in the air, right, and you've got this more of a steeper landing angle, yes, it will land softer, but very difficult to control the distance when you're launching your wedges high up in the air. There's a lot of variability, wind, you know, you could have more spin, doesn't go as far. So a lot of things can come into play on a shot that we're really trying to hit it as close as we can, right? We're trying to, it's probably going to be if we missed a shot from the fairway, you know, a recovery shot, or it's our third shot into the green on a par 5, you know, we want to zip these in there and get them in as close as we can to save par or make a birdie. So now that we've got that mindset that we want these spinning more, right? Now the launch is actually going to be lower. And that's where we're going to go into the technique today on how do we hit a lower launching, higher spinning shot. So what that comes down to is something called spin loft and friction on the face, okay? So first and foremost, you need a clean face, clean grooves, right? And no grass on the face. I would wipe your wedges down before you hit them because moisture cuts down on friction. So if you have a wet club face, ball's not going to spin. So that's important. Dry, clean grooves. Then what we're going to do is the technique to manage the launch. Okay, so what happens with a lot of wedge shots that I see that get mishit is that we put in too much wrist motion. Can I borrow a wedge? So wrist motion does two things. If I'm here and I hinge my wrist more, that does two main things that I don't want to have happen with a wedge shot. This is a speed lever or speed mechanism, right? Just as if you were hammering a nail, right? You're hinging your wrist and unhinging your wrist. You're creating a lot of speed in a very short space in a short amount of time. I don't want all that because then we have to manage that somehow. If you've got really fast wrists and you're hinging and unhinging to hit these wedge shots, well then that's going to be too much speed. So then what happens is you like slow your body down and that'll affect your contact. Okay, so we want to limit, number one, limit the wrist hinge on a wedge shot. That is first and foremost. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have a more body-driven pivot, body-driven motion with the ball just slightly back. That ball slightly back is going to help you launch it lower, right? Because if we get the ball more forward, by the time that club gets to the ball, I'm presenting more loft at that point. That's going to launch the ball straight up in the air. So it's the friction on the face and it's the body-driven pivot, which I'll get into now, that's producing the speed. That's going to help you with the right amount of spin. And this ball position just being slightly back is going to help you launch the ball a little bit lower. We all on board with that so far? Any questions on that stuff? Okay. So, wrists. We're limiting them, so we know we're not going to go much more than this. Now, how do I get this club down to the ball with less wrist hinge, right? Because I'm not using my wrist now to do that. So I have to make up somewhere along the way in the swing, getting that club down to the ground and down to the ball. That's coming from your pivot. Pivot is rotation and side tilt. Okay, so that is going to be where you get the club down to the ground. If I rotate it to my backswing and I let my lead shoulder kind of go down a little bit more, that gets the club up. And then vice versa, as my arms drop and my right shoulder starts to work down, that's going to get the club down to the ground. I'm not doing it with this, I'm doing it with my pivot, right? These are my shoulder tilt as I'm rotating. Thanks. Appreciate that. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, one more thing that we're going to work on with this, that's another speed controller. Just like if you hinge your wrists and unhinge your wrists, that's a big speed component that we're trying to take out. The other one is actually your shoulder, right? So if I think of an elastic band, if I stretch my shoulder and I stretch my arm across my chest, I'm stretching all these muscles over here, right? And when I stretch these muscles, what wants to happen? Just like an elastic band, it's called a stretch shorten cycle in fitness and in PT. So as you're stretching this, you're creating that stretch across your muscles, and it's going to want to fire right back off. And that creates a lot of speed that we really don't want. So when we're hitting these wedge shots, you can see I'm turning my chest and my arm's going with it, but I'm keeping some space in between my pec and my bicep, right? I'm not closing that gap and getting all this stretch across my body, because then that's going to be really hard to time and really hard to control on the way down. So it's a body-driven motion, just like we worked on with chipping, right? And it's the chest supporting the motion, right? My arms are staying in front of my chest for the entirety of this motion. I'm not getting these to work across and out, because that's going to be very hard to control contact. So those are the main points that we're going to work on with these wedge shots. So again, ball a little bit back. I'm keeping the same interaction of my arm to my chest. As I turn, this doesn't change. This stays the same, right? I'm not turning and then going there. I'm turning, and when I stop turning, that's when the club stops. And that's what's going to produce that shorter motion at the top. So you're going to go, for these wedge shots, whatever you would normally hit a distance, you're probably going to go up a club, and that's okay, right? Whatever you would normally hit, if you hit a full 56-degree wedge, whatever that distance is, you're probably going to go to a 52 with this type of a technique, more controlled motion. But that's okay, because it's going to flight lower, it's going to have more spin, and you're going to control that distance a lot better.